We're live. Welcome to Two Girls, One League, brought to you by Not For Long Media. I'm Paige, and this is Alex. And we have a special guest on today, recently retired tight end Dan Brown. Dan, say what up to the people.
What's up, girls? Good. I'm glad to be on here. Thank you for having me. And
We have a lot of fans, so
yeah, that's great. I need more fans too. So
you'll get them off TikTok based on your looks. Oh my God.
you think
Clip
so?
this and
I
put
don't
it
even
on
have TikTok.
TikTok.
I
We
mean, I
get
have a
we get
TikTok,
eaten
but
up
like
every day.
I have no followers and I don't follow anybody, so it's just a profile.
On what? On TikTok?
Yeah.
No, you don't want them to follow you on TikTok. You want them to go to your Instagram, but our
Um,
TikToks like blow up because
really?
people think we're stupid.
Nice.
They might have a point. Might, possibly.
It's usually because of like some like 2-second clip about like Eagles fans, and then it just blows up. Like
But there's
like it'll
there's
have
no
like
such thing as bad publicity. It's all good.
That's what I was saying.
yeah, but it'll be like 3,000 comments just absolutely shitting on us.
Take it. Take what you can get.
And like one
Exactly.
time, like we talked about like they clipped like Tom Brady and his like new girlfriend.
Yeah.
And like you would have thought like we murdered him and his whole family. It was ridiculous. But anyway, a little bit about Dan. Dan played ball at James Madison, where he majored in computer information systems. So don't tell this man to stick to football because he's got brains. He was later signed as an undrafted free agent for my Baltimore Ravens in 2015. He spent majority of his time though with the Bears and Jets, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
And a little stint with the Chiefs.
Yeah, we don't even. Yeah, that was a cup of coffee for like 2 weeks. I don't even claim that. But
You don't?
No.
Wikipedia does.
So when I gave my like retirement shout out, the Chiefs weren't involved.
Oh wait, I
damn.
did notice that.
Yeah.
Why? Because you were quite literally there for 2 weeks.
Yeah, and it just didn't. I don't know. The whole thing was just. It didn't sit well with me. It was all business, and I was on the bad end of it, and I just, it didn't sit well with me. So
Yeah.
I don't claim it.
It is a business.
It is.
Did you watch the basketball game last night?
I did.
That was the most boring game I ever watched.
Yeah, I actually fell asleep with like 10 minutes left. So
Yeah, it was horrible. Did you bet? Do you bet at all now?
I don't bet. No, I've just never really gotten into. We did a bracket and stuff, but I didn't.
Yeah,
Mine was ruined after the first day. So
I know.
just
I
like
feel like
everybody else's.
do we say that every? I feel like we say that every year. People are like, "Oh, it's the most upsets ever," but I'm like,
I
don't
know.
we say that every year? Like, who did you have, Alex?
I wasn't really into the men's, to be honest. I didn't even watch last night. I didn't even really bother. Why is it at 9:20? That was so late.
Yeah,
I
it
go
was
to bed at
really
like I go to bed at like 8,
Well,
so
it was
9:20
bad on
is
both ends because the men's game was 9:20. Nobody wanted to stay up that late, and the
Mhm.
women's game was 3:30 on a Sunday.
on a
Like
on a
Sunday.
I
Sunday.
had no idea that it was even at 3:30. I didn't even get to watch it.
I watched it because I was hungover as fuck.
Yeah,
I was in Sunday
I
fun
was-
day, so
yeah. I was driving, so I didn't even have access to it.
Yeah, I know, but that one blew up on the timeline. I was surprised it actually had as many views as it did because I felt like majority of like everybody talking about it came just because of that whole thing with Angel
Yeah.
Reese and
Yeah,
Caitlin Clark, like just being on people's timelines. But I was
it
surprised
had
that
almost 10 million views.
it was up like
yeah,
120%
it's 9.9.
from.
Yeah, I think peak viewership at one point was like 12 million.
I watch it every year because I support women in sports, but
Yep.
I made a women's bracket. I had a women's bracket this year. That's how much I watch it. I'm a closet women's college basketball fan. They
How
put
are
on a
you?
great product consistently.
Oh, come on.
I swear to God, they really
I need to
do.
pull up these receipts on TikToks when we would send each other videos of like middle school girls playing
All
basketball.
right, that's middle school. I'm talking about, I mean, I do have like some complaints. Like me and my sister was talking about like I'm like, why don't they like jump for the rebounds? Like they kind of just were reaching for it, and we were like, I'm getting like kind of like an ick like watching this, but
I'm just waiting until they can dunk. That's when I will be sold 100%. I'm into it now, but I want someone to dunk something.
I know what Alex's thoughts were, but what were your thoughts on Was what Angel Reese did classless?
I'm not. I don't really care what she did. I mean, people like you said, the whole thing. Like people talk trash. Like I remember, like I don't know. I guess they were playing South. They were playing Louisville or something, and like I know the Caitlin Clark girl. I mean, she was a baller. I mean, she's pulling up from Steph Curry range, so she's all over Sports Center or whatever. But I remember when they were playing Louisville, and she was at the foul line, and that one girl from Louisville was talking shit to her, and she was like, "Shut the fuck up! You're down by 15." Like, and
Yeah.
then walked by her and did the "can't see me" thing. So like, it's no
Yeah.
different. Like, I guess they're talking about like the timing of it or whatever, but like they're talking trash. Like it is
She
what it is.
finished it. I mean, Angel Reese won the national championship.
Yeah,
Like, Caitlin Clark is talking trash all season, and then she
right.
lost. So we
I
want to
don't
talk a
think
little
that's
bit
yeah.
extra.
I don't even know why it's like such a big issue. I just think people need to have something to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I thought
exactly.
I thought it was a little cringe how she followed her around the court like
That was a little,
It
yeah,
may
it
have
was a
been
little.
excessive, but it wasn't like classless, like trash.
no. I would agree. I thought it was more classless, well, classless, but like none of them got in line to handshake Iowa. I thought that was more like
Well, I don't
I
know where
didn't
the
like
beef.
that.
I don't know where the beef came from because like this whole thing started where LSU came at Iowa because of the way they were guarding South Carolina. Like they said they were
South Carolina.
disrespecting South. Like how is that even a thing? Like just because they guarded South Carolina different than you
Right.
doesn't mean like I don't know why LSU got so
Like
felt
why
so
would you
disrespected about that.
that beef wasn't yours to like take
No,
up.
like if
Yeah.
South Carolina had something to say about it, then like I don't know why LSU is trying to defend South Carolina for the way they were guarded. Like that makes no sense to me.
Yeah, that
Unless
was
they were just trying to create some of their own energy, and maybe that's what it was. They're just trying to create something to light a fire.
well, they said it was their like SEC sister, but I feel like all of us in the SEC
I
hate each other.
could care
Yeah,
less. Yeah, I would
So
care
like
less.
what? Like that's
I'm
just a
not
bad
buying that.
excuse.
There is no conference brother and sister. I'm not buying
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, no, hell no.
Conference sisters.
Yeah.
At Florida, our conference sisters would have been like what, Butler?
Yeah.
We played in
Everyone
like
was
the
like
world's worst
stepsisters.
conference.
Literally, legit.
But what are you up to now, Dan? Tell us a little bit about what you're up to.
What's
I
your
mean,
day to day?
I've been
What time do
mentally
you wake up?
whenever my body wakes me up, but
Must
uh,
be nice.
I've been mentally retired since like November, to be honest with you. Like I tried to play all last year. Like I had a couple workouts, teams called throughout the year and it just didn't work out. Unfortunately, like my success as an undrafted kid, I ended up pricing myself out of a job, like as a career third teamer and special teamer.
Mhm.
Like nobody's willing to pay a minimum salary for an 8-year vet to do what I do when you can go get a rookie kid who makes
Right.
not even half of what I make, and he can do the exact same thing. Maybe he doesn't do it as well, but I don't know that you have to have like a superstar at that position. So I end up just pricing myself out of a job, which is, it's okay. Like I guess my success did that to me, so I guess I'll take it. But nothing ever really happened last year, so I kind of knew by like November that I was done.
Mhm.
Um, my agent kind of said like, let's just hang on. Let's see what the draft, like off-season free agency takes us, see if we get anybody bites. And it had gotten to the point where I was just mentally, I was just done with it. I hadn't played football in 14 months. Like I've already kind of started like the body transition to where I don't need to be 245 pounds anymore. I just
Right.
don't. I've started losing weight. Like I haven't played football in 14 months. I mean, it would be like riding a bike, but I just don't want to get back into it. And even if someone did call at this point, I know exactly what it means. Like I've been around long enough that if I get a call now, it's probably to fill a roster spot to compete in camp while I'm taking
Mhm.
the load off of us, the first and second string guys. And then it's going to be like, we get to the end of preseason and it's like, oh, well, appreciate your time,
Right.
thanks. So
And
what I
that's like
make,
the most gruesome part. Like, why
yeah,
would
and
you
I
even
make
want
what? I
to
make
play
like
in training camp?
$6,000 during training camp, and then it's like, what did I just wasted even more time. So to me, it was just time to move on. And
Yeah.
nothing lasts forever, and should just walk away, grateful to have the opportunity that I did.
Do you have any injuries at all?
I had, yeah, I mean, I tore my ACL in college. I had an ankle surgery I had a core muscle surgery, a couple finger surgeries, nothing
Jesus.
nothing crazy. So like I walked away like perfectly fine. Like when I'm 40, I'll probably feel like shit, but
Yeah.
it was worth it. So
Better than most people will probably
yeah.
feel at 40.
So like a typical day for me now is it's still part of my lifestyle to kind of stay in shape. So I still go to
Mhm.
the gym. I'm at the point now where I really don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Career wise, I know I don't really want to work that hard,
That's
which
what I say to myself every day. What do we do? I
like
don't know what
I
to
don't
do.
necessarily want to work that hard because I've worked pretty hard for the last 7 or 8 years,
Right.
and financially, my advisor says it's okay that I don't have to work that hard. Like obviously, I'm going to need to do something to keep busy, and
Mhm.
I'm going to drive myself crazy if I just sit around the house. But
Right.
I haven't really figured that out yet because I don't know where I'm going to be at. So once I kind of get settled somewhere, I can kind of find a hobby or something that I would like to do. But for the past 9 months, it's been workout, find something around the house to do, maybe travel to see some friends,
Mhm.
past obviously I've gotten in with the Annapolis crew since January, which has been
Yeah.
great. So that's given me something to do. It's kind of given me more of a direction. Now I can spend the summer up there.
Mhm.
I got the Florida girlies up there.
Yeah.
I got Colin.
We
So
took them under our wing.
yeah, they did. They really did, which was great because I needed some direction and some friendship.
You think you would get into, like, coaching or, like, commentating? Like, I feel like that's just, like, the
Yeah.
classic routes that
Right. I
retired
don't
athletes
I don't
go.
think I would get into coaching just because I don't think I have that type of personality.
Mhm.
Like, this past winter when I was at home, I helped my accountant or my tax guy coach JV basketball, and it was quite an experience. It was miserable, right? It's just like I'm coaching, eighth and ninth graders who really don't care about winning or losing. It's just like, hey, I just want to be on the team. And it's like, okay,
No,
well,
that's babysitting. You were
yeah.
babysitting.
I mean,
Yeah, you're a baby.
we got blown out by 50 one game, and they're in the locker room just like grabbing ass, and it's like I hate that. They don't listen to anything. I mean, it's like
No.
I
No,
couldn't
they don't
coach.
care.
I couldn't coach unless it was like at a professional or like a college level, but
Mhm.
Yeah.
I know what that entails. It's like college, you're on the road all the time. Like you're recruited.
Mhm.
There's no off season in college, and it's just. And then the NFL, it's the same way. But you never see your family. I mean, I know coaches who don't go home, and you have to work your way up, and it's not the time that I'm willing to put in. Like I remember when
Mhm.
I was with the Jets, we had Hines Ward, who's a Hall of Famer, as an assistant coach, and I watched that guy 4 days a week sleep in the office because he's drawing plays for the coach because he wants them in the playbook or putting pieces of paper in a binder for the players. It's like that dude's a Hall of Famer, and he's doing the grunt work for coaches. It's like
Right.
I have no interest in trying to work my way up that ladder. It's just too much.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was a college coach for a little bit, and I mean at D1 level, I mean we weren't crazy top 20 or anything like that, but the lifestyle is insane. I mean it's
Yeah.
just nonstop traveling.
No.
I
And
feel like I was like a professional babysitter also in a way
right.
as
Yeah, because they're
well.
still college kids. Yeah.
They're still college. They give you a run for your money. And yeah, I don't know. I think like as you get older and you settle down and you want to have a family of your own and whatever, it's hard to do that lifestyle. I commend
Yeah,
the people that do it. Not for
for
me.
sure.
I thought you were gonna say that you got into accounting. I was like, "What?" Like, I'm like, "They just let you do that?" Like, you need, like, some certifications. I don't know. You grew up in Virginia, though. Did
Yeah.
you have a, like, who was your pro team? The Redskin or my bad,
Oh,
the
whoa.
Washington
No,
football team?
Don't you
no.
dare say
I
that
like
word.
I mean I'm from like 45 minutes from Virginia Beach, like Norfolk, so I'm pretty much way
Mhm.
down here, and there was no really I was kind of like a uh just kind of blowing in the wind when I picked my teams as a kid. Like I think I grew up as a Tampa Bay Buccaneer fan.
Hmm.
Uh I think as a kid, it was at the time where Pirates of the Caribbean was a huge deal, like in the movies, and I was like, I thought they were great movies, and then like I found out that the Buccaneers had like a pirate ship, and they're like, not to say I'm a
Mhm.
huge like pirate fan, I just thought it was cool. So as a little
Well, yeah.
boy, like I just chose Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and not because they were good, because they were awful. I mean, they were a terrible team when I was playing, and they won a Super Bowl in 2002, and it's the only success I ever remember them having. So I kind of just picked and choose teams based on what was going on. I mean, I ended up being a Laker fan because I was a Kobe Bryant fan.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up being a San Francisco Giants fan because I was a Barry Bonds fan. So I kind of just picked. It was nothing regional for me.
Yeah,
I guess I could have been,
yeah.
I guess I could have picked a Washington team or Baltimore because it would have been close, but I just never got into it.
All right. That's understandable, you know? Well, I wish that you would have said Baltimore because that would have been cool that you ended up there. But
there was so my mom did find like this this picture. I guess as a little boy, I would get this. You get those little uniforms and with the plastic helmets or whatever. And I did have a Baltimore Ravens one. So maybe at one point I was a Baltimore Ravens fan. So I had one with my helmet on, standing in front of the Christmas tree. And then like when I signed with the Ravens, of course, like she put up the picture and was like,
classic.
Manifested it. Like you worked.
Right.
It's like, I was just a little kid. I would have taken anything at that point.
True. Because well, like, I don't think I said this when I introduced you, and I just found this out recently, but you walked on at JMU, correct?
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm from just a tiny little town. I mean, it's actually, the town's right behind me right here. So it's got like maybe a couple thousand people. I mean, I went to the smallest private school in Virginia. It was pre-K through 12. It was 500 kids. 44 in my graduating class. So it was like nobody was recruiting this area. Like nobody from my school had even played a Division I sport before. So nobody even knew how the process worked. I mean, my coach couldn't even tell me what to do. And I had no idea what a recruiting process was. It was basically after my senior year, I had finished football and then I had finished basketball. So when we're like at probably February at this point, I told my dad, I was like, hey, I kind of want to play college football. And he's like, okay, let's do it. So he takes like 3 days off of work and we put together a highlight film. And I was like, I'm not, like, I know that I'm good enough to play a Division I sport. I'm like, no disrespect to Division II or Division III schools. I was like, I just don't want to waste my time playing small school football. I was like, I know I can play Division I football. So we ended up sending a film to every Division I school in Virginia, Virginia Tech, William Mary, Richmond, ODU, James Madison. William Mary said my SATs weren't high enough, which is great, whatever. And then never heard back from like UVA or Tech or ODU, which is wild because ODU was right down the street from me. And then Richmond said I could come take a visit, and it was too small. It was 3,000 kids at that university. It would have been like the same thing as my high school. I just didn't want that. And I got invited up for a visit at James Madison. And, at the time they had 18,000 kids. They were building a brand new stadium. It felt like a big university. Vibes were good there with the coach. So they offered me a preferred walk-on. So I ended up walking on there in the fall. I redshirted my first year, had a really good spring. So they put me on 50%. And then the first year I played, I had a decent first season. So they ended up putting me on 75 following spring ball. I did well again. So then my last 3 years, they ended up putting me on a full scholarship.
Hell yeah.
That's awesome.
Harrisonburg, Virginia, baby.
Yeah.
We've been there.
Yeah. Good old JMU.
Yeah.
What's they got a great Outback Steakhouse. That's the only place we've been.
No, they got a lot more than that.
Yeah, but anyway, I don't know if Baltimore fans remember this or not. I mean, my dad certainly does, but like he is also an outlier. Google, but the first time he met Dan, like he was like, oh, like didn't he remember the Miami,
Yeah,
right?
did. Rob,
So Dan's first catch, well, what should have been his first catch was a touchdown for the Ravens when the Ravens were playing at Miami. I mean, it was like almost like 60 yards or something. It was a touchdown, and they called a phantom pass interference, and it got taken away.
Yeah.
And we ended up losing that game.
Yeah, that was I get reminded of that every single year because it's I don't know. This date is sometime in December, and it gets brought up every single year. So a ton of people tag me on Instagram through it. It's just like apparently it's the worst OPI call in the history of the NFL, which is, I guess I'm glad to be a part of some sort of history,
Yeah.
but on the wrong side. But it was that was gut wrenching because that was I kind of had this thing going where my first catch in college, first career catch in college was a 41-yard touchdown against UNC. My first catch in the preseason with the Ravens was a 40-some yard touchdown against the Eagles. And then my first regular season catch would have been against the Dolphins, would have been a 52-yard touchdown. And it was like kind of broke the streak a little bit, but it was also gut wrenching because that one hurts the most. And I personally think it changed the course of my career. Like I was kind of hoping that I was gonna be like a next Jordy Nelson. And I think that kind of stat line helps me out and end up finishing that year. And then they said that, big white guys play tight end. So not
right. I mean, you've never wanted to change the course of your career. That's honestly really sad. But if you Google Dan and like the Ravens, all these articles come up and they're like, it's like these refs need to see an eye doctor, like phantom pass interference. Like it's crazy. Like I don't remember this at the time, but there's like videos Harbaugh's like fucking flailing his arms up in the air, pissed off. And we end up losing to Miami, right?
Yeah, we lost 17-15, yeah.
Yeah, so like to lose that game by freaking 2 points on that is insane. Like, that's honestly that would keep me up at night. No thanks.
Yeah, it was gut wrenching. It was gut wrenching. It took a while to get over for sure.
But why don't you talk us a little bit through your NFL journey after leaving Baltimore?
First year I was 10 weeks. I had a good preseason there. So 10 weeks, I started a practice squad for 10 weeks, kind of off and on. I'd been cut 2 or 3 times. And we had a lot of injuries that year. I don't know if you remember, that was the year Joe Flacco tore his ACL, Steve Smith tore his Achilles. We were kind of down to really nobody at receiver, which worked well for me because I get a chance to play. I played the 6 games that year. And then at the end of that year, they were like, we think you'd have a way better fit if you just played tight end for us. And I was like, yeah, I know. They basically said we aren't going to re-sign you unless you move to tight ends. I agree to play tight end because I really don't have any other options. But it was a crowded tight end room. I mean, in 2016, I got there. It was, we had signed Ben Watson. Dennis Pitta was coming back. We had Crockett Gilmore. We had drafted Nick Boyle and Max Williams the year before. They moved me to tight end. They moved Darren Waller to tight end. So, like, it's a stacked room, right? So, like, and I'm at the end of the day, at the end of that preseason, I was really the only tight end that got cut. I mean, there were some guys who were injuries. We put them on IR. But, like, that ended up being, a super deep tight end room. I mean, if you look at the success that tight end room and like went on to have is pretty crazy. So I ended up starting practice squad again my second year for 4 weeks. And then Chicago calls and says that we're going to pull you off the practice squad. And I guess you necessarily don't have to do that. You can kind of just pluck somebody and they go. But a courtesy thing, they tell the team you're on. So I got that call. And then Harbaugh called me and was like, hey, Chicago, wants you to be on their roster. We don't want you to leave. What are you going to do? And I'm like, well, are you guys going to activate me or what? He's like, yeah, we're going to bring you up. I'm like, okay, yeah, I want to be a Raven. So if you bring me up, of course I'm going to stay. So they brought me up, and then, long story short, 3 weeks later they cut me.
Because
they needed a roster spot. And then
do you remember who the roster spot went to?
Yeah, it was for a defensive back, Asa Jackson, I believe. We were on the way to New York to play the Jets. It was a Saturday, and they had told me, they're like, yeah, we knew we were going to cut you on Wednesday, but they were like, we're trying to kind of slide you under the radar. We don't want teams to kind of see that you've been cut. So everybody travels on Saturday, so they're hoping that like maybe they missed the waiver claim or whatever. So they cut me on Saturday, hoping that I would be back on Monday. And then my agent calls me at 4:00 on Monday and said, "Hey, like you've been claimed. Your flight to Chicago leaves at 7." I'm like,
Holy
okay.
crap.
So I run to my closet and I find the 2 biggest bags I can find and I pack what I can and I head to the airport. Um,
Wait, were you in a hotel or like an apartment or what
no,
are
I
you
had
in at
I
the
had an
time?
apartment. So at the time I was living with Nick Boyle. We
Okay.
had been roommates for the first 2 years. And I ended up packing bags and Nick took me to the airport. And then I ended up playing. I mean, I did well in Chicago. I played a lot in 2016, which is why they claimed me. I ended up playing a lot, and then um, 17 and 18, I played there. You know, we had that what should have been the playoff run in 2018, but the infamous double doink against the Eagles really derailed that. And then in free agency of 2019, I signed with the Jets, and I played there for 3 years, and then the whole Kansas City story is, and it was 15 minutes before the trade deadline of 2021, and we had just beat the Bengals, so like morale's high, like we beat the Bengals on Sunday. We have a Thursday night game, so we're already in the building. We're getting ready, and I get pulled out of meetings with like 15 minutes left before 4:00. I knew what 4:00 was, but my mind was like I got pulled out of meetings. Like, okay, I probably just got cut. I don't know why. Like I lead the team in special team snaps played, but I guess I'm getting cut. So I go up to the office and the general manager and the head coach are up there and like, hey, like they're like, listen, this is the last thing we want to do, but we traded you to Kansas City. And I just like was shocked. Like I just
Yeah.
like I saw a ghost and I was like, why on earth would anybody trade for me? Right. Like it was just a
Right.
straight up player for player swap. That's it. It was like for what they considered to be a starting guard who was making $6 million a year.
Who was it?
Larry, they call him Larry. He was he wasn't playing for the Chiefs. He had been like holding out. He was the guy who missed the 2021 season because he's a doctor, and he skipped the 2020 season to like take care of like COVID, like work in the hospital.
What?
Holy shit.
He's got like a French name.
Oh, Laurent
Laurent,
Duvernay Tardy.
Yeah, that guy. So they're like,
That's that guy.
we traded you for him. And I was like who wants the fourth string tight end who's playing special teams? And then
Right.
I had no idea. And they're like, listen, like the door is never closed here. And I was like, this just doesn't feel right. Like, why would you say that to somebody after you just traded them? So then obviously I leave the building because they're like, listen, we're trying to get you out here as soon as possible. I was like, well, I have an apartment. I've lived here for 3 years. I have a dog. Like, I can't just leave. I was like, so I ended up driving 7 hours home that night. Got home at like 2 a.m. Dropped my dog off. The plane left Norfolk at
You
11
drove from
New Jersey to
Jersey to home to drop your
Yeah.
dog off,
Yeah,
and then took a plane.
I slept there, and then the next morning I had a 10 o'clock flight to Kansas City. But the
What
weird
do you
thing
do
was,
when you have a whole apartment? Like, does somebody
Yeah, I
go
don't
deal with
get
that shit
that.
for you?
yeah,
Or?
I mean, I had been there long enough that I knew people, and I knew the
Okay.
maintenance guy, and I knew the basically the landlord, and they, and at the time I had a dog sitter who would come in and take care of the dog, like when we traveled, or would pick her up when we traveled, or would take her for walks when we had like long days. So, and she ended up taking care of it for me. She would go check on the place, grab my mail. So it was nice to have someone like that. But on the drive home, my agent called me. And he was like, "Yeah," he's like, "Hey, I just talked to the Chiefs, and he's like, what they said, it feels weird." And I was like, "Yeah, this does feel weird." He was like, the general manager told me um, that they're excited to have you, but they don't want you to think that you're going to get some sort of extension or anything just because they're trading for you. They're like, they basically want to get you out there. They want to see you move around and practice and see what you can do. I'm like, I've played for 7 years. Like, you can turn on the film and see what I can do. Like, this doesn't feel right to me at all. It's like, whatever. And everybody's trying to like stay encouraged and positive and like, oh, this is a good thing. Like, you're going to go there and you're going to kill it. And like, they don't need me. I don't know why I'm going here. So
Was Kelsey there at the time?
yeah, they had Kelsey. They had drafted a kid. They had Blake Bell. They had one more tight end. They didn't need me. They needed a guy on the practice squad is what they really needed. And I got out there, and I could immediately tell that, not to say that they didn't want me, but I could tell that there was no urgency to get me involved. I could just tell, like, there was just, I was like, okay, like, take your time, like, learn, get to know the people, like, learn. Like, we'll watch you run around, and we'll see what you can do. I'm like, okay, this is stupid. Like,
Yeah.
you can go watch my film. Like, I've played in games. You don't need to watch me run around and practice. So I was there for 18 days. And then as soon as they needed a roster spot, they cut me. And I was like, I knew it was coming. Like, I knew it. And they were like, this is where I started like piece everything together. Before I left town, they were like trying to slip me like practice squad contract. And they were like, listen, like, just sign this. And if you clear waivers, we'll sign you, and we'll be good. If it doesn't work out, we'll just rip it up like it never happened. I'm like, okay. So I was like, I'm not signing that. Like, I'm going back to New York. I immediately called my special teams coach from the Jets. I was like, listen, I just got cut. Like, I need to be back in New York. He's like, okay, hold on, let me see what I can do. So the Chiefs were on a bye, so I flew home anyway. And I ended up signing back with the Jets the very next week and played the last 6 games. So I met LeBron. They call him Larry. So I met him in the hot tub. And he was like,
fuck you.
No, it wasn't his fault. It wasn't my fault. So I was just like, what's up, dude? He was like, oh, you're Dan Brown, man. Stop.
Oh my God, that scared the shit out of me.
Is that the legendary dog?
And sorry. And I was
Is
like,
that the dog you drove 7 hours back with?
Yeah, that was the little monster.
Yeah.
He's a sweetheart. So he was like, do you kind of know like what happened? I'm like, no, I don't know what happened. Like, but I know I got screwed over. He was like, yeah, it's kind of my fault. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, I had a no trade clause, and I didn't want to get traded. But because I had taken so long to decide whether I wanted to be traded or not, the point of who was going to take on the majority of the salary had become an issue. So the Chiefs weren't going to do it, so they were going to cut him, and he didn't want to be cut. So he agreed to the trade to the Jets. And because the Jets were going to be taking on all of his salary, the Jets were like, we're not going to give up a draft pick. So, I guess the Chiefs are scanning.
They said, here's Dan Brown.
Like, what do we need? And there was like, they needed a tight end on practice squad. They really had nobody on practice squad. So I'm sure they scanned it, and they saw that there was a reliable 4-string tight end who had played a while. They thought that they could sneak, on the practice squad.
Why didn't you want to go? Wouldn't you have signed to be on that practice squad? Because you knew.
Because I knew that I could come back to New York and play right away.
Okay.
So, if it would have fell through with New York, then I'd have been okay. But I had already known, which is weird because when I left the general manager's office in New York, he was like, the door's never closed here, and I'm like, you just traded me away, but you're telling me the door's not closed, so it's a little weird. So I knew that I had like a spot to come back to. And I guess in the end, everybody thought that, Joe Douglas was the GM in New York, and he had ended up, looking like a genius because he traded a 4-string tight end for a starting guard. That tight end got cut, and then he re-signed him, 3 weeks later. So it's like, it is what it is. It was straight business, but I knew from the start it was a little fishy. Yeah, but long story short, I ended up finishing the season in New York, and then that ended up being my last year. So that's the story from the end of the Ravens days to
that was the end of Dan Brown.
Yeah.
Yeah, Colin told us to ask where your dog fit into that story. I was expecting like something way crazier, but
was that the drive home? That was
the
part.
When I got her like from a shelter when I was living in Chicago. It wasn't a huge. I had just adopted a dog. I don't know that there was any drama towards it. Like, yeah, I did have to drive her home, but that's what any dog owner would. No, I don't think any dog owner would just leave their dog in the apartment.
Right. Like, I'm going to Kansas City. Like, figure it out, dog.
The climax was just not there.
Yeah.
Where was your favorite place? Out of all of the teams you were with?
I thought organizationally that the Ravens were just kind of a top-notch place to be. It's a tough place to play. Honestly, I think it's it's a tough place to play, but they take care of their players when they are there. As far as like facilities and all of that stuff and travel, like they take care of the players. But as far as like a city to play in, I thought Chicago was a blast.
Yeah, Chicago's cool.
Great sports town. Fans were great, and I played in New York, where the fans didn't really like you unless you were. I mean, they don't really like anybody, to be honest with you, especially when you're on a bad team. But it's like we weren't very good in Chicago, but all the fans were like very nice. They knew who you were. When me and my parents would go after the game, they would take care of us, and I was by no means like a household name, but they knew who you were and they took care of you. Whereas like in New York, I felt like, if I had one mistake, I got, spat on as I walked out. It was just two totally different
ruthless in New York.
Yeah.
Alex is a Giants fan, so
I'm a Giants fan. I'm from
she's
Long
the one
Island, New
spitting
York.
on you.
Nice.
No, well, yeah, I wasn't a Jets fan. I thought they
Not
were
quite though. I feel like that's more Philly. Like those guys are fucking.
They are Philly's ruthless.
They're dirty.
Yeah.
They're classless. Okay,
They're classless.
They're classless.
Yeah, my parents
talk about the word
they weren't fans
classless.
of Philly.
Who was what was the toughest opponent to play against, like stadium wise, crowd atmosphere? Like who did you not look forward to going to?
When I came back to Baltimore on we played there on a Thursday night when I was in New York. And that's when they were rolling. They were that was 2019. Was that Lamar's MVP year?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they were rolling. I mean, we played a pretty good game, and it was just the crowd for some reason. I mean, they were really good. The crowd was way into it that year. It was a night game. The atmosphere was crazy loud. That was a tough place to play.
Yeah, that was that's what I wish we could get back to.
Yeah, Kansas City was a pretty loud place to play.
Yeah.
Arrowhead.
Have you had any like do you ever hear fans like chirping you or no?
Not really.
No.
Maybe when you're on the bench, like when you're closest to them, you can hear someone heckling somebody if they're persistent enough. But it's very rare that you hear just one person just going at. I mean, usually if one person's going at, most of them are just all yelling at the same time. So I don't. And I guess the part of being a pro is being able to tune it out too. If you listen to everybody, you're probably going to drive yourself nuts.
Yeah.
I was going to ask that. Like, did you ever like look yourself up on Twitter or anything like that?
Yeah, it's almost impossible. It's almost impossible not to. I think it's so bad for your mental state.
Right.
But
I would do it.
I just think it's almost impossible as a human not to do it.
Yeah.
Especially if you have Twitter. Yeah, I mean, I've done it, and it's just been it's mostly negative, because the only time you really look yourself up is when you do something bad, because you want to see what people are like.
Do you ever remember anything?
If you do something good, then people are going to let you know about it. But then it's like, if you do something bad, the whole world's talking about it. So,
you ever remember like something you read and you were just like, damn?
I just remember being in like in New York a lot. It was just,
oh God, I could only imagine.
It was just like, I had made my niche in New York. I played a lot in 2019 on offense, but I led that team in special team snaps like 3 years in a row, and graded out really well. Like it did pretty well, and it was just like every time something happened, it was like, this Dan Brown guy is just an absolute waste of a roster spot. Like, why is he here? He's the most worthless piece of trash. Like, it's just like they just make you feel like you're the worst player on the planet. And it's just like, and the thing about it is that it's grown men behind a screen who, if you see them in public, would probably just be like, oh my gosh, like they would never.
Right.
Yeah. They never say anything to your face. So it's like, you got to take it with like a grain of salt. Cause like, I'm sure this guy, if I saw the same guy tweeting this, if I saw him in person, he would probably be asking for an autograph,
Well, especially that fan base. I mean, they were just going through it in general. So they did not give a
Yeah. I mean, I don't blame them. I mean, my first year there, I guess my first year there, we were 7-9. Our second year, we were 2-14. Like we weren't good. My third year there, we were rebuilding, so we were 3-14. So or 4-13. So like, I mean, they don't have a lot to be happy about, which I understand
Right.
from like a fan's point of view.
Yeah.
Who was your QB when you were there? Darnold?
Yeah, Sam. Sam, my first 2 years, and then it was Zach Wilson the third year.
Were
Do you
you
have
so you were
any
there
dirt
during the
on
whole
him?
ghost thing?
On Zach?
Yeah, any dirt on him? He likes moms.
That's the rumor. I had been, that was kind of this past year, so I had kind of just missed it.
Right.
I mean, I know we went out with him and his girlfriend like on a couple trip, like little gatherings. Like we went to an Islanders game like as a team and stuff like that. I mean, Zach's just I don't have anything negative to say about him. It just hasn't worked out. Yeah, it just hasn't worked out for him.
That's
I
fair.
don't
So you were
I
there
kind
during-
of missed all the dirty drama. That was kind of this past year, so I don't have a ton of insight on it.
Wait, so then did Flacco end up coming back there when you were there?
Yeah, so we signed Flacco in 2020.
Oh yeah.
We signed for him we signed him in 2020, and then he signed with the Eagles in 2021, and we traded for him after we had a couple. Zach Wilson had got hurt in the preseason or got hurt early in the season, and then we needed a veteran presence, so we ended up trading for Joe in 2021.
And he remembers you from Baltimore days?
Yeah. Me and Joe were cool. I remember Joe in Baltimore as a rookie. He was always very nice. And I was, as a rookie, you see like Joe like that, who, he's a Super Bowl MVP. At one point, he was the highest paid quarterback in the league. So you kind of, those are kind of one of the guys you see, you get kind of starstruck. You're like, oh man, it's Joe Flacco.
Oh, that was one of our questions.
That was one of our questions.
So he's like, he's always very cool, very down to earth. Like he was never like a flashy guy, like a me guy. He was never too cool to talk to anybody. And even, my second year, I got to know him even more. And then, we would go to dinner with him, and their friend group was kind of like Dennis Pitta, Joe Flacco, Kyle Juszczyk, Justin Tucker, like those guys. And me and Nick had kind of made our way into that friend group. So, when we were traveling for away games, we were going to dinner with them. So yeah, it was cool to see Joe again in New York.
White guys unite. You gotta link up.
He's always a cool dude, yeah.
That was one of our questions that we always ask everyone when they come on is like who had you the most starstruck? But like I would not expect somebody to say Joe Flacco, to be honest.
Well, I would say like from Baltimore, it was because I played receiver. It was Steve Smith for me. It was you hear a lot about him, and then then you get to share the room with him, and you see him, and it's like, man, like this, like that's a guy that probably going to be a Hall of Famer, maybe a Hall of Famer. I don't know, like, but just you see him, and it's like he's completely different than what you think he is. Like, dude plays with an edge, plays with a chip, but he's the most loyal guy like out there. Like, he's going to go to battle for you as long as you are doing what you're supposed to. Like, for him, it's all about respect. But I just remember, like, we were all getting fitted for our helmets for like a rookie camp or whatever, and he walked into the room, and it was like, man, that's Steve Smith right there. So, and I think a lot of it had to do is because I played receiver, so he was probably like my first starstruck guy.
That's pretty cool.
And where outside? I used to hear that he would go out after games in Baltimore. Can you confirm or deny that?
After games?
Yeah, I heard he used to be like in the streets, like in Fed Hill.
I never really hung out with him outside of we were in the streets in Fed Hill after games. I mean, we would.
Yeah, I knew that.
We would play on Sunday afternoon, and even if we had an away game, if we got home, we were going home. We were getting ready, and nobody's really out on Sunday night in Fed Hill. But we don't have any time to go out, so it's like, yeah, we're gonna go out. We're gonna. Like you said, we started at Banditos every single Sunday night. So
Banditos.
That's scary. That's so scary.
That's really scary.
Now
that's a dark hole.
It's crazy on Sunday nights in Fed Hill. Like really? The playoff game, it was elbow to elbow, couldn't even move. Like they go hard now. I don't know. I guess like my generation of kids like loves to party. Like Well, I
Yeah,
guess everybody
it
loves
was
a
a
fight,
ghost
but
town on Sunday nights when I was playing, but we wanted to go out because we needed to have some free time. So
right. Where else would you go?
we were pretty loyal to just that one street. I mean, we would go to
Yeah,
Banditos
Charles
or
Street.
Mad River or Riverwalk or Mothers. You know, we stayed
Mhm.
right there, and then I mean, every once in a while we would venture to the casino, but nothing.
Oh gosh, good old casino.
We were pretty loyal to that street on Fed Hill.
Yeah, that's, like, where it pops off for game days, Fed Hill. It's a
Yeah,
little, like, younger, so I don't really go I won't go there unless it's game days, really.
yeah.
'Cause, Purple Patio, that's, like
That
Alex has
place
had
is
some
so
dark days
scary.
at Purple
Dark days
Patio.
at Purple Patio,
I
man.
don't know the Purple Patio.
It's
Oh, you don't
literally
want to know
directly
it.
across from Banditos. It's called,
Okay.
it's Mother's, but it's called Purple
Okay.
Patio
Yeah.
where they
Yeah.
I
have
have
it's
lost
literally,
my
like, purple.
soul. I think half my soul is still there. I've never
Dude,
retrieved
she
it.
would come visit me because she's from Long Island, but when she was
When I was living
coaching
in
college, she was at American in DC,
Yeah.
so she'd come up and stay with me and, like, on game days, and I would just leave her ass there and go home because,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I'd have to drag her out of that joint. It was nasty.
Purple Patio.
We've all been there though. So
Had some times.
Um,
Well, talking kind of on the aspect of going out, I guess Collins had another question, which I'm nervous to even ask. Would you rather drink a margarita at Chop Tank or an old fashioned at Looney's?
see, that happened last week. That's the only reason he's asking that. We literally, Colin and
Is he
Sid
trying to
wanted.
embarrass you?
No. Colin and no, I'll embarrass him right back. Colin and Sid wanted to have like a little retirement party on Thursday, so we went to a steakhouse. And I'm gonna like I don't know. It depends on what your vibe is, right? So like we're at a steakhouse, and I was like, yeah, I kind of want an old fashioned with my steak, so I started with that. But you know, I've been up there a lot now since January, and Chop Tank's one of our favorite places,
mhm.
and if he's trying to take some digs at would I rather have a margarita at Chop Tank, we went there. Me and Colin went there Saturday. He was like, "Hey, you want to go to Chop Tank get a couple marks?" So like, I don't. If he's looking for a dig on if it's girly for me to drink a margarita, like he's the one who's pushing for it too. So
I love a good
I love
spicy
a good
margarita.
margarita. I fuck
no, the marks
margaritas
at
up.
Chop Tank are to die for. They're just
As soon as it's warm out, well, actually, I do this when it's not warm
yeah.
out.
I mean, I
But
put them down. I mean, I put them down in like 3 sips because they're not very
Yeah.
big. But,
yeah,
They're deadly.
I have no problem. I have no problem drinking a marg, and if anybody asks me, I'll
Just give me salt on the rim and I'm game, you
Yeah.
know? Exactly. There was another question about is there a story why you're called Man Down, Dan
I don't think
Brown?
that there a story. I
Is
thought we
there-
just said it to say it.
That's something that Colin's a big likes to just do rhymes. I guess I don't know. That was
That's who I got it from.
from our time in Chicago. That was just what he said. He would be like, "Man down, Dan Brown." Like that's just what he would
Yeah,
say.
it's
and
just
we would run.
rhyming.
I mean, Colin's got plenty of nicknames for me. I don't know if he wants me to share his other nickname. I'm sure Paige knows about it, but you know,
Go ahead. This is the place.
Colin invented that one too. So Colin's got the whole friend group in Annapolis calling me Dilfy Dan because that's
Oh yeah, they do call it Dan.
So I mean, I see Nicole and Nicole's like, "Oh, Dilfy Dan," and then I see Lauren and Liz and they all say the same thing. It's like that's just my nickname. And it kind of fits, I guess, because I'm kind of the oldest in the group. Like I'm almost 31, so I am like the oldest of that group. But
So is Nicole.
Yeah, Nicole's old as fuck.
so, but it's great. I love so that came from when we were in Chicago in 2018. You know, training camp's a grind, and you know we're back in. Well, I guess we'd spent some time in Bourbonnais, and then we came home like to finish the last of our training camp in Chicago. And it's you know it's getting late, and we're doing an afternoon walk through, and it's just kind of like my style. So I'd had some turf shoes on with some crew socks that were probably like up to my calves, and then I had my shorts with my shirt tucked in and a hat. And for some reason, Colin's walking behind me. He's like, "Dude, you're just so professional. You look like a dad." And he was like, "I'm just gonna start calling you Dilfy Dan." And at this whole time that me and Trey Burton have just been clowning Colin like the whole the whole training camp for just things that he says. And I was like, you understand like what a DILF is, right? He's like, you know what a MILF is? He was like, yeah, I know what it means. So I'm like, is that how you look at me? And he was like, no, not at all. But and it kind of just stuck. So now he's got the whole crew calling me
Yeah,
Dilfy
whole
Dan.
crew do be calling him that.
It's great.
Another good question, another like one of our staple questions, and this is actually good because you might have like the most experience out of anyone we've had on the show, but best Christmas gift you've ever got from a QB or QB.
So the tight end is it's kind of a group that gets lost.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like y'all get neglected.
We do.
I feel like Colin had some though I guess he got his Christmas gift from Christian McCaffrey. Never mind.
Yeah. It's a difference, team to team. I think the tight end is a room that kind of gets lost in terms of value brought to the team because we do, run game stuff with the linemen, we do pass blocking, we do route running, we do, so we there's a lot on our plate in terms of knowing the offense, and I feel like that value kind of gets lost. So, the quarterbacks always give linemen gifts. I think the teams I've been on, the tight ends kind of get forgotten. Mm-hmm. The receivers, we're kind of receivers too, but we're not really included in that. So we don't. It ends up just being on the teams I've been on. It's just been the tight ends doing the tight ends. Like we do stuff for each other. Nobody really ever includes us. I'm not sure why. If we just get kind of lost in the shuffle. So every room I've been on has just been the tight ends just helping each other out. So I don't have any crazy gifts.
Any good gifts? It's kind of fucked.
Yeah, boring. I mean, Trey Burton did give me a in Chicago when he did give me a he got me like a kind of like a bourbon and whiskey pack, which was great. Had a lot of high end bourbon and whiskeys and a couple glasses and some stuff to make big rocks, ice cubes, and then he had some other types of stuff that wouldn't water it down. So that was a good gift, and I use it a lot. But I never had anything like mind blowing. I think one guy got me a pair of red bottoms that I haven't worn once, but it's
pretty cool.
Yeah, it was. There's some red bottoms. They got they're blacks. They're black. That black suede, and they have like little spikes on the toes. But it's not. It's not necessarily. Not necessarily like my vibe. So I haven't.
You're rocking those to Annapolis upcoming weekend.
I've never worn them, so maybe they could be like a trophy case type of thing. But I guess if you want me to rock them in Annapolis, like I could probably take them to Chop Tank one night and sip on a mark.
Sip on a mark. Just creep everyone out. Well, we can wrap this up soon, but the last question. We want to know your thoughts on Lamar's contract.
Yeah.
Me and you talked about this a little bit over the weekend, but kind of go into it deeper with your perspective of it, just being an outsider now outside the game, but also, your stance as being what you would say a like undrafted walk-on kind of player.
Yeah. I mean, I don't necessarily blame them because I'm all for like this doesn't last forever, right? So like get your money and get the most you can, like whenever you can. Like I'm all for that because at the blink of an eye, that team, there's no loyalty, right? So that team's going to turn on you too. So they can sign you to a huge deal, guarantee the money up front, and then you never see the rest of it because they don't want to be, they don't want to be financially tied down. So I understand where he's coming from in terms of getting his money and getting his value. I mean, the dude, he's a stud, right? I mean, there's nobody like him in the NFL, and you can't. I've been on teams where we played Lamar, right, and you try to prepare, on scout team, and it's just impossible to replicate. Like you can't replicate that guy's talent. And I remember seeing him on the field when we played, and it's like he's fast on TV, but he's even faster in person. And it's just like he's a phenomenal talent. So I understand where he's coming from. Like, get your money, get the most you can while you can. I just think that, especially being in the same division, that Deshaun Watson contract is just it's killing everything, right? Like
Mhm.
that's 230 fully guaranteed coming off a year where he didn't play and he was in trouble. It's
Mhm.
just like, if somebody's willing to give him that money, Lamar's probably like, well, I deserve that too, coming off like a couple of MVP years, MVP type years. So that contract is that's really screwing everybody.
Yeah.
Um, and everybody that comes in a free agent is trying to set the market for the position, and it's always going to be that way. And it's Lamar's turn, and he's trying to set the market.
Well, you kinda said, like, on Saturday, we talked about this a little bit, you were like, "That's kind of like the first rounder mentality," like,
Right, right,
every
yeah,
time it's their turn to sign a draft, which I think is gonna be an issue with us regarding Patrick Queen, because I think he's got a little bit of that in
right,
him too, and
right.
that's gonna be a
First round
problem.
guys are always like, they get money coming into the league, and it's like, they got that first round mentality, so it's like I deserve to be paid, especially when you're a first rounder who's done as well as Lamar. It's like, okay, well, it's my
Mhm,
turn to set the market. Here's my value. It's like, whereas an undrafted guy like me, it's like I'll take what I can get, right? It's like there's no negotiating, or for me, it's just let me take what I can get. Whereas those guys have way more bargaining power. And
mhm,
I don't know. I mean, I can't relate to the whole agent thing because I'm a type of guy who needed an agent. I needed a guy who could have contacts in the building and get my name in there.
mhm,
I think it's tough negotiating by yourself because he loses a little bit of power,
Yeah.
because those guys in the front office want to negotiate with an agent and not a player.
Yeah.
I think too much emotion gets involved when it's a player negotiating. So I can't really speak for. I just know that's a tough situation that I don't know a lot about. But I don't know if it's deeper than guaranteed money either. I know
right.
people on the team. I've heard stories. It's like,
Go ahead, spill
is
the
it
beans.
is it best to like just move on? Like, is it a bridge that's already been burned? Like, is
Right,
it more than just money, or is it, the Ravens don't like the way he handled being hurt? Like, he
Mhm.
wasn't going to meetings, he wasn't going to practice, he wasn't in the building, he wasn't getting rehab, like he didn't travel. Was it, you know, is that bother them? Like, are they willing to pay someone who didn't, come
Yeah.
around? I don't know. It's just I don't know if it's just money or if it's deeper than that. Because if it's deeper than that, then they both
well,
just
it seems to I don't think anybody thought it was deeper than that until recently.
yeah,
It's starting to seem like
right,
it's deeper than that, especially with him now having come out and tweeted that he
yeah,
asked for a trade. I mean, you don't ask for a trade, I don't think,
right,
if you want to be in Baltimore and you want to work out a deal with them.
Yeah.
right. But it's
Can you
it's also weird
say
too, because like everybody on the other side is so optimistic. Like, you listen to Harbaugh and it's like, oh, we're gonna get it done. Like, Lamar's a
Yeah.
Raven.
yeah, but that's because he's a bullshitter. He says that every single
I
time there's
yeah,
a
I mean,
press
nobody
conference.
knows Harbaugh's more of a bullshitter than me. I mean, I got my own stories. Like, I know all about it.
Well,
Like,
this is where you're supposed to spill them, Dan.
yeah, I mean, we would have to have another whole hour segment, and I could do it
Yeah,
just
but
Harbaugh.
can you say what you know about Lamar basically this past season, which
She's
What do
really
you
putting in the hot seat. Holy shit.
yeah.
like? What do you mean? Like, what do I know? Like, what I
Yeah,
just
like
know
what do you
that. I
know
mean, I
about
don't.
him that you heard like what he had been doing like I guess not when he was injured, like
Yeah,
it doesn't sound like he was really like into practice and stuff. Sounds like he was getting or not really doing his treatment, coming and
right.
leaving
That's what
kind
I
of
was saying. Is like he. I know everybody loves Lamar, and they want to go to battle for him and stuff like
thing.
everybody loves playing for him. But it's like, I know some people were a little. I just heard. I mean, I know guys on the team. I just heard it was like
Hmm.
he was hurt. He wasn't showing up for treatment. Like, as a starting quarterback,
He's supposed to be
why
a
aren't
leader. He wasn't showing up doing what he's, yeah.
why aren't you going to meetings? Like, I get you're not playing, but like, you're a leader of the team. Like,
You're the face of the franchise.
Yeah.
right. Like, show up
Exactly.
for meetings. Like, I don't even if you are hurt, like, go to practice. Like, I'm sure Snoop could have. He probably could have used some help
Benefited.
on the field, right? Like, I know he was there on the game supporting him, but like, maybe he needed to be at practice, like helping him out. Maybe he
Hmm.
needed to be in meetings helping him out.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know how much that had to
No,
do
I
with.
mean, I was
I don't know if he
riding.
was. I don't. Maybe he was
So am
using
I.
his leverage, whereas like I want to get paid, and if I do, then I'll be better.
Mhm.
I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I was riding with him till he came out and tweeted that he asked for a trade, 'cause cause I don't know, like, cause I feel like that's when it's gonna get messy, and
Right.
I don't think that he's going anywhere.
But
I
I
think he's
also
gonna end
think,
up right back in
yeah.
Baltimore, so
And I think the way that the Ravens played it, right? Like I mean, the reports that came out, I guess they're true. I don't know if they're true or not. Where they offered him the second most guaranteed money in NFL history, right? Like they didn't offer him Deshaun Watson guaranteed, but they offered him
Mhm.
more than anybody else has gotten, and he turned it down. And it's like, you know, I just don't like it's. There's
Yeah,
got to
one
be
more.
more to the story. Like I just don't
Yeah.
understand. Like
Yeah.
there's got to be something that's going on. Like I understand you want a fully guaranteed contract, but
Yeah.
I mean
Something fishy is up.
yeah,
Yeah, I do
that
think there's
I just feel like the Deshaun Watson thing is that's not a real thing, and it
no, it's
can't.
not a real thing.
So
Um,
I don't know.
but yeah, I mean, I want Lamar to stay in Baltimore, but I don't if it's gonna
Right. I mean,
him holding
so
out and
here's what
all
the
that
Ravens
crap.
did, right? The Ravens put the non-exclusive tag on him, and they basically said, "Here, we've offered you the second most guaranteed money in NFL history. Go see what else somebody's willing to offer you." And
Mhm.
unfortunately, I don't know, like nobody has come out and said anything. Like nobody's
Right.
put
Well,
in an
that's
offer
because
sheet.
the owners they all did not okay that Deshaun Watson thing, and I think they're
Right.
pissed off that that happened because
Right.
now
Exactly.
people expect it, and I think that that's them all linking up, being like, "Nah, we are not cool with that. We
Yeah,
do not approve that."
and maybe they feel that like if they do put in an offer sheet, like eventually it's going to come down. Like maybe they don't want to give up 2 first rounders because that's what you got to give up, and then
Mhm.
ultimately it comes down to like, yeah, he's going to want a new deal regardless of where he goes, and he's going to want
Yeah.
fully guaranteed money. So the Ravens were kind of like, okay, like you go see what else is out there. And now that makes this kind of weird, right? So like nobody's there. It's like, so is he just not going to play
Yeah.
football, or is he going to come back and everything's going to be okay in Baltimore?
Right.
He's going to play, and because if
That's
if
the issue.
he signs that tag, which he hasn't yet. If he signs it, or if he doesn't get a deal, does he sit out? Does he play on that $32 million tag, and then we're right back here next year?
Right. Well, I saw a report recently that said he's not gonna sit out, he doesn't plan on doing that, but, uh, I don't know, like, I feel like I don't see him going anywhere else because it doesn't seem like anybody either A, wants to do the negotiations for Baltimore pretty much, and
Right.
B, give them him that much guaranteed money, and the Ravens are not they're not gonna give him up in a trade for anything less than
No.
the best deal ever, you know?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
they're not stupid, they're not gonna, like, just take
Right.
anything for him. So that's why I think he's gonna end up right back in Baltimore, so I wish the trade crap hadn't come out because 'cause I'm like, now you've tainted it a little bit,
Yeah.
like
Now it's just it's a little. It makes it a little weird.
mhm, but I don't know, you're right. We probably will just end up right back here next year.
Right. He'll sign his tag. He'll play off the 32 million, and then it'll be right. It'll be right back. I mean, then they can tag him twice, so this may be a 3-year thing. You can tag a player twice.
Right. What do you think about them, like, all the young guys coming into the draft early? Like, the
Which
young QBs, like, what did you think, like, Baltimore should take that and get one of
uh,
those guys?
yeah, I mean, I don't. That's tough because the free agent thing is over, right? Like
That's how I felt about it.
there's
I felt like
nobody there's nobody left. If you draft somebody high, then that's a lot of you're investing a lot in a kid that you draft high. Like that's not
Mhm.
just a bridge quarterback anymore. That's a guy that you're looking to turn the future to. Does that how does that bother Lamar or whatever? It's like it's just a really sticky situation all the way around. It's like you
yeah,
can't you have to be prepared. If he doesn't play, but like you said, all these free agent quarterbacks have signed. There's not a
mhm.
ton left. Are you going to draft a kid? are you gonna, I just don't know. You're gonna if you draft kid in the first round, which I don't see them doing at all. But do you turn the keys over to I mean, they still have Snoop, so do you draft a fourth rounder and turn it over to him? I don't know. It's just it's weird. There's a lot to think about.
Yeah, I felt like if we were gonna do get one of the young guys, that we would needed to have gotten like a Geno Smith or something like that to band-aid us for like 2 years, because
Right.
in my opinion, Anthony Richardson isn't like gonna be a QB1 right off the bat.
Right.
And that obviously ship has sailed because we've been held hostage in this thing with Lamar, so we couldn't really do much in that sense. So
Right. Yeah, I mean, if you're the Ravens, you're just hoping and praying that like it does work out with Lamar, because like your eggs are still like all in that basket. Like you built your identity around Lamar. Like that show goes as Lamar goes, and I think everybody sees that.
I want to pay him, but then there's times where like when Ronnie Stanley, not Ronnie Stanley. Oh my God, fuck him, because he needs to get his ass on the field. But Calais Campbell, like those casualties are the ones that like where I'm like, fuck, because this all comes back to like we have to make so much room for for this contract that like those are all just gonna follow. And like that's the shit that sucks when you do pay somebody that much, is like that's all you can pay. Like guys like that you got to get rid of baggage somewhere. Like that's the shit that sucks. But we shall see.
Yes, you just got to trust DaCosta. Let him know that
I do and I don't, because I feel like they should have gotten that contract done before Deshaun, and then we wouldn't have even been in this position.
Yeah, I mean, because I know I've seen comparisons. Him and Josh Allen are the same age, and Josh Allen did his 2 years ago when he was eligible for it, and he's made so much more money than Lamar has already that he's not going to make up. And it's like, if you'd have got it done earlier, maybe you're not in this situation.
We're not in this situation. That's why they piss me off. But I love my Ravens, so I'll keep riding. Well, now you're going to be a Ravens fan because we're holding you hostage in Annapolis. So.
Yeah, 30 minutes away. Yeah.
Yeah, he's going to get us like back in the locker room because he had alumni TV.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on and giving us your time. I know you're so busy, but
I had to rush home today, like you said.
Yeah, I said I hope you don't have to rush from your 9 to 5. Take your time. He was like probably sitting there at like 4:59, like
No, the funny thing is so I clicked on the link at like 4:55, and it was like, this requires Chrome or Firefox or like whatever. So I was like, I actually was like, I might not make it on in time, so I had to download Chrome and then open it up in Chrome. But that's why I got that computer degree. I can,
perfect. Yeah, figure it out.
I sent him the link earlier, Alex, when I sent it out to you at like 4, and he texted me. He's like, "We good?" Like he thought that like I sent him like a virus.
I had this.
Because it was just like a link with like nothing.
I took all kinds of cybersecurity classes. I'm like, you don't click on emails that just have a link to subject or anything.
We're trying to hack into your stuff.
Yeah, he thought that we were like, he was ready to act up on that link.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, man down, Dan Brown.
Dan Brown. He's officially man down.
Officially man down.
Yeah. I appreciate you guys.
Whenever you start a small business or something, like you can come back on and plug it on here.
Yeah, for sure. Colin will set it up for me.
Or we'll root for your like JV basketball team.
Yeah. That was a one and done. That's a one and done.
Yeah, one and done. We'll have you back on when the season starts up. It'll be
for sure.
I love that. Yeah, it's been great. Sure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, man.
Thank you. All right. Peace. Oh wait, follow us on TikTok and Instagram. 2 girls, 1 league.
2 girls, 1 league. Yeah, sorry guys, follow us and follow Dan. And what's your IG?
Yeah, plug yourself.
Shoot, it's it's DA Brown _10, I think.
And he has a blue check, so he's legit.
Yeah, I am legit.
He is legit.
DA Brown _10. Yeah.
All right, DA Brown _10. Follow him.
Give him a follow. Go like his
Send him a nice message for all the years that you guys are assholes to him. All right. How about that?
Some words of affirmation. That would be great.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Bye, guys.
See ya.
And